Look, it's my great privilege to be able to be the MC and launch what is a very important report. The report was commissioned by the Conservation Council of Western Australia on behalf of the Save Our Marine Life Alliance. Its author, Dr. Martin van Bueren, is with us, and he'll be giving us a little bit of a talk. Why this report is so important is that it's really the first authoritative report that talks about the costs and the benefits of establishing marine parks in our waters in Australia. And this is a difficult and challenging topic. As a business person, it's easy putting values on lots of businesses. You do cash flows and you can discount them and you can come up with pretty accurate value, and the stock market's very, very good at ascribing values on things. Where it gets very difficult is when you've got a fairly nebulous but extremely important subject of what is a marine park worth now and going into the future. And Dr. Van Buren's tackled this, I think, extremely well. Now the format will be, I will run through and give a bit of a profile on Martin, and then I'll introduce the next speaker, Tim Nicol from the Conservation Council, and then the next speaker, Dr. Tod Jones from Curtin, and then maybe we'll have a few questions. So I'd better read Martin's profile because it's too impressive to be able to try to remember. Okay. He's currently now Director of Economics at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and when he did this report, he was formerly a Director at the Allen Consulting Group. And Martin is a leading practitioner in the field of environmental and natural resource economics. In his career, he's undertaken many complex public policy economic projects, including non-market valuation. Projects include economic valuation studies on the national value of heritage protection, which was published in the Productivity Commission inquiry, community values for land and water conservation, a choice modelling study for the National Land and Water Resources Audit, and a major study for Clough, New South Wales that estimated economic value of social contributions made by licensed clubs in New South Wales. Recent major projects in the area of environmental economics include a review of groundwater management in Victoria for the Department of Sustainability and Environment, and a major report for the former West Australia Department of Industry and Resources, which set out a pricing and access framework for managing marine and terrestrial biodiscovery in WA. At Allen Consulting, Martin ran an active advisory practice in water economics and was a principal advisor to the National Water Commission. He has formally advised the New South Wales Government on natural resource management. Martin has formal qualifications in fisheries economics, having completed a PhD thesis on managing resource allocation decisions in Western Australia's southwest fisheries that support both recreation and commercial fishing sectors. While studying at UWA for his degree, he lectured a course in fisheries economics, and he was also engaged by the Department of Fisheries to review pricing and access policies for commercial fishing industry. Martin, over to you. Thanks very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I've just got a short summary notes here in front of me which I'd like to take you through, which will give you just some insights to some of the main findings in our report. Allen Consulting Group accepted the invitation from the Conservation Council of WA and the Pew Group to produce this report because we're really keen to promote objectivity in public policy making. That's really at our forefront of our mind when we do our project work for governments, that we're keen to get good objective decision making. And in this case, we're looking at the large-scale marine park establishment off the southwest coast of Western Australia. Question is such a development really in society's best interest as a whole? Our study takes a principled approach to identifying the types and scale of benefits and costs, drawing on an extensive review of the literature, both Australian and international. We use an economic framework to compare costs and benefits, and on a like-for-like basis, which I think is very important. What we've heard in the past in some of these debates is only one side of the story, and I guess, in a sense, an exaggerated view of the costs and benefits depending on what point of view one wants to get across. What we've tried to do here is to compare everything on an apples-and-apples basis, which is looking at what the net impacts of establishing large-scale marine parks would be in terms of net benefits. The quantitative findings from our report should be interpreted really as an order of magnitude estimates. That is, are we looking at $1 million of impact, $10 million or $100 million? We shouldn't get too tied up about the dollars to the last decimal place. There's simply not the certainty around the science or the economics for that matter to be able to get a precise estimate. We've also, in doing this work, we've used all the best available information that there is and also made some ground rule assumptions about the size of the marine parks, and being 20 to 30% of the areas that have been mooted by the Commonwealth as being areas for further interest. 20 to 30% of those areas would be set aside as no-take areas. Okay, what are our bottom line findings from the report? What we found is under a range of scenarios that we looked at, and we conclude that there's a high probability that the benefits of establishing these parks with correctly designed, smart design parameters would mean that the benefits would outweigh the costs. Of course, we can put marine parks in places which would have a very large detrimental impact if we weren't smart about where we put them. So we've made those, obviously gone through and tested a range of scenarios, and on balance have concluded that the benefits outweigh costs. Yes, there are some costs to existing users. We estimated that direct displacement costs to commercial, recreational fishing and the charter fishing industry combined would be in the order of about $10 to $15 million per annum. And that is in terms of a net reduction in value. That figure is underpinned by an assumption that there'd be around about a 15% reduction in catch available due to those areas taken out of production. Costs, though, are probably a bit on the high side, if anything, because what we've assumed is that those fisheries are well managed at present and the level of sustainable catch that was historically achieved in those fisheries will continue to go on into the future. Some more recent evidence is suggesting that that might not be the case. We've seen, with the rock lobster fishery in particular, some recent declines in catch, quite severe declines, and so that does put some question marks around whether it's really safe to do our modelling on the previous period of high catch levels. Nevertheless, we've given, as the science and the jury is still out on this matter, we've assumed that the rock lobster fishery will spring back to its previous historical catch rates, and hence these costs of the fishery are dependent on that assumption. Looking then at the benefits side of the ledger, we've looked at four main categories of benefits emerging from these parks, and of course there are others, but some of the big ones. Firstly, there's the value of spillovers, of having marine parks as a sanctuary gives the opportunity for small fish to grow into large fish and hence support spawning of new recruits and larvae moving into the areas that are currently fished, or the take areas. And if we look at just a 5% increase in catch per unit effort due to the formation of those parks, then that would lead to around approximately $2.5 million of extra net revenue for the commercial fisheries.